Omaha schools that are playing a vital role in keeping our community strong. We serve nearly 600 pre-K through 8th grade students, most of whom come from disadvantaged neighborhoods. These students receive a values-based education with the family support they need. I'm a proud member of the CUES Fund Board, which supports the CUES school system. To learn more, go to CUES Schools, that's CUES schools.org.
KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620, The Zone. It's time to break down what went right and what went wrong during this week's game. Severe Reaction is on the air with your host, Michael Severe, and the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction starts now. Powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
Huskers break the huddle. 3:15 left in the game. Dillon under center. Turns. Gives it off to Dante. Up and over. Touchdown is third of the night.
I mean, look at the defenders.
And there's a Badger down. Wisconsin's a beat-up football team. Students are pulling onto the field. Second time they've done that this year. They didn't have the Colorado game. And now Nebraska knows they are bowl eligible. The 8-year excruciating drought is behind us.
Yeah. Sense of relief.
Obviously, good win. Happy for the guys. I thought it was well-rounded as we played from the opening kickoff, on the kickoff return, special teams, offense, defense, kicking field goals. I thought it was as well-rounded as we can be. So credit to the guys. As I told them, we sound like we're doing something different. They're doing the same things. They've just worked and worked and worked and gotten better and better and better. Especially proud of those seniors. 30 of them, all different journeys to get here. But especially the guys who've been here for a long time. They've been through 3 coaches, different ADs. As I said earlier, they've stood in the gap. It's not easy to do, in a place with expectations like this, and they've done it. So I was really happy for them to be able to grab that trophy, and they've never seen it before, and hold it and bring it in the locker room. So happy for them.
Welcome to Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. I am Michael Severe, joined by Joey, the producer, 402-951-1620. It is a celebration Sunday. It is a bowl eligibility Sunday. It is a 6-win Sunday. It is all the different Sundays that Nebraska's been waiting to have for a number of years now. It took nine opportunities to get bowl eligible over the last 2 seasons. 4 times last year, Nebraska lined up to try to do it, failed, and then in the 5th time this year, they get it done. Nebraska is going to a bowl. They are bowl eligible. We talked so much about the year 2016. You'd think 2016 was the greatest year in Nebraska football history with the amount of times that we referenced 2016, but it was not. I mean, it was good, 7-0 start, and went to Wisconsin, had a chance to win a game there, and were ranked and did some good things and got to a bowl game, obviously, but it was okay.
So one of the biggest conversations yesterday on Big Red Overreaction was, where were you when Nebraska last made it to a bowl game? I was in my senior year of high school when Nebraska last made it to a bowl.
Yeah, well, you got to think about it. Of all the
ago.
fans there, let's just say there were, 2,000 kids there, probably more. A lot of people bring their kids to the game.
Yeah.
Most of those kids don't have any memory of Nebraska going to a bowl game.
No.
Or weren't alive. We were, I do the podcast on Thursday nights, and the producer goes to Creighton, and he was in elementary school the last time Nebraska went to a bowl game.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy to think about, but yeah, that's where they are, and they got it done, though. It was a day of breaking streaks is what it was, because not only did you have the bowl streak you took care of, but remember, Wisconsin, for 10 games and 12 years, has basically, at the end of games, worn Nebraska down or twice, once in 2012 and once in 2014, ran for over 500 yards on Nebraska's defense, beating them 10 years in a row. And as Coach Rule said in the bite, the team never saw the trophy. They didn't know there was. They knew there was a trophy, but they'd never seen it.
Yeah, it did not exist until like a few years after Nebraska joined the Big Ten.
Yeah, after they got rid of legends and leaders, they went to East-West. That's essentially when the trophy became the trophy.
Yeah.
So they played in 2011, the first year Nebraska was there. Wisconsin had Russell Wilson. Nebraska played really well in the first quarter. And then you had a couple interceptions by Taylor Martinez, and it got out of hand. And then, of course, in 2012, Nebraska beat them at the end of September. It was a really weird game because the quarterback, he was a third-string quarterback at the time for Wisconsin. I still believe he was concussed at the end of the game because he turns the wrong way to run. They were supposed to run a fake handoff bootleg on a fourth down. And there was nobody on the edge. He gets a first down. They might go on to win that game. But instead, he turns and just kind of drops the ball, trying to give the ball to the running back. I don't know. But the game ends on a fumble turnover. And Nebraska wins that game. But then, of course, they go to the Big Ten championship game and they get destroyed by Wisconsin, a 7-5 team, I believe, at the time when they beat them.
Yep.
And, it was brutal. And then after that, you can go back and look. The 2014, that was the end of Bo Pelini, right? So Nebraska had played some decent games in 2014. They get a 10-0 lead on Wisconsin. Maybe even 17-3. I don't remember that right. 14-3, something like that. I remember they had the lead. And then Wisconsin just started running basically the same outside zone play over and over and over and over. And at one point, you're giving up 300 and 400 yards rushing. And from there on, Nebraska obviously has lost all the games with Wisconsin, but many of them going into the fourth quarter were games that Nebraska was in. Coach Rule talked about it in the postgame yesterday. He said, he had conversations about becoming a Nebraska coach. Looked like it had kind of fallen apart. So he and his wife are sitting there on the couch watching Nebraska play Wisconsin, second to last game of that season. And Nebraska's in the game. They're playing well. And then at the end, Wisconsin just kind of overwhelms Nebraska, whether it is bringing the fullback in and lining up and say, we're going to go right at you and drive it all the way down the field or whatever else. That's how the last 6 or 7. What was Nebraska leading that game?
17-3 against Wisconsin in 2014.
It was 17-3.
And ended 59-24.
Yeah, it's just the end of Bo Pelini right there, essentially, on that day. The end of any idea that Nebraska defense or Bo Pelini's defense would be able to bounce back from it. It was just brutal.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon broke the
record. Yep. And then, a week later,
yes,
Shamaji Perine broke the record back, which is still craziest week, 2 weeks in rushing college football history. But yeah, that's what it's been against Wisconsin. But they break that streak. So another streak. Nebraska, as you know, haven't had a running back run for over 100 yards in a while. Obviously, hadn't happened this season. Didn't happen last season. Not against a conference opponent. You did have Heinrich Harburg do it, but not a running back. So you got to go back to 2022, Anthony Grant, who went over 100 yards rushing. That's the last time. Then you start talking about the amount of points they scored, scoring 44, going over 40. They hadn't done that in a conference game. You have to go all the way back to the COVID year when they blew out Northwestern. They scored 56 against Northwestern. That's the last time that Nebraska scored over 40 in a conference game. Just all kinds of streaks getting broken over the course of yesterday. So many things to get to. We'll go over what went right, some of the things that went wrong because, man, tackling was brutal yesterday, and thinking ahead to Iowa game is not a good thought, especially with the way Caleb Johnson's running the ball. But 402-951-1620 is the number. We can chat about any of those things, any of the breaking streaks or finally getting bowl eligible. Where were you when Nebraska was last bowl eligible for this time? We can get all of that as well. The offense, man, if you look at what they did and the way they did it, one of my big keys going into the game was Nebraska needed to get a fast start. They needed to get started. Let's get started was the song I played. And I did that. Big kickoff return, 45 yards. And then you go and you score in a quick drive to get up 7-0. Something Nebraska hadn't done on offense since the Rutgers game. The Rutgers game feels like a year ago. I know it's only, I think, 7 weeks now ago, but still, it feels like forever ago. But Nebraska finally got over that. Coming after 9 o'clock, we'll chat with Stephen M. Sipple. He'll join us. He's, a couple shows. He's been on the road, so we haven't had a chance to talk to him, but we'll catch up with him as well. One of the things I want to talk about before we really get into this game and get into making a bowl and all the streaks that were broken was, we talk so much about these college athletes now being kind of semi-pro because they get paid. You get a free education, you get all the fame, you get the cash now, you get whether it's NIL or collective money or whatever else, you get it. But it's not, all sunshine and lollipops. It's not. It can be a very stressful thing overall to be a college athlete. And we don't talk as much about it anymore because now we think of them as being semi-pro athletes, right? So that's all we think about now. Since they make so much money, since they go out there and they do things that, we couldn't do before as college athletes, we don't think at all the times about what they go through. But I listened to Merritt Beeson, Nebraska volleyball player, talk about, at the end of the season and what this has meant for her, senior day for her. And then Jamal Banks, they asked Jamal Banks, too, about, what it's meant for him. What has he learned being here at Nebraska? I want to play this bite. It's going to be Merritt Beeson first and then Jamal Banks. But I think at times when we are talking about these athletes, and I know they make this money now, and I know that some of them are making six figures and everything else, but it's not horrible to give people a little bit of grace. Here's what the two athletes had to say yesterday.
These girls took me in at a time when, to be quite honest, I hated volleyball. I didn't want to continue playing volleyball. I wasn't super confident in Merritt as a human being, and these girls and this coaching staff and all the support staff took me in and allowed me to flourish in who Merritt is and accepted me for who Merritt is and helped me find the love of volleyball again.
Yeah, I guess I could say I learned. I learned to love myself. For sure. You're gonna do that. Like football, off the field, my role, everything. Learn to love myself.
Again, it's easy to criticize them, and I know we do it, and a lot of people do it for a living. And maybe it's easier now because they do earn this money. Maybe because of the NIL, it's easier. But again, it's not horrible to give somebody a little bit of grace. And think about where you were at their age. Think about the things that happened to you, the things you had to deal with. Merritt Beeson hated the game, right? Because she probably was struggling, both probably on the court and then off the court. And that always blends into whatever you're doing as your job. It's a thought, it's not easy to be criticized. It's not easy to fail. And it happens to these athletes every now and then. And when it does, yes, we can talk about what they did wrong. But at the same time, just because they make money now doesn't mean we can just automatically go off on them all the time. So again, just thinking about that a little bit. Before we take our first break, and again, of course, Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally and answer the phone in the first ring, and Nebraska Medicine as well. We appreciate them being part of the show. Let's go to the phones. 402-951-1620. Ethan, what's going on, man?
Yes, sir. Hey, just I've been listening to you for quite a while. 2000 or the last bowl game, I was living in Las Vegas, and I moved back to Omaha. And I was at the 85 Sugar Bowl. Can you hear me?
What are you saying? I'm sorry.
I was at the 85 Sugar Bowl.
Okay.
Dalton Hiller was the running back.
Yeah.
I don't remember the quarterback, but
it was Tommy.
LSU.
It was Tommy. Oh my God, I forgot Tommy's last name. Tommy Hotson's last. Yeah.
Hotson?
Yep.
We had a ball, but I almost got arrested like 3 times. I was 19 at the time.
Oh, okay. Was that your first bowl game you went to?
No, actually, as a child, my mom took me to when Nebraska played Clemson. I think it was 1982.
Oh, okay.
And Refrigerator Perry was the hot hand back then.
Oh yeah, and that was the year with Remington wins, and he went against the Clemson defensive line, and
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that was a great game. Yeah.
And I think they were calling him offsides during that game.
They called him offsides twice. Yeah. They called the center offsides twice. Yeah.
Other than that, I'm enjoying Husker football again. And I think Matt Rule's got him on the right track. I'm getting tired of all the criticisms the Husker fans is. I think we need to start being happy and enjoying it again. I think he made the right move with going with the direction he's going on offense. And as long as we can keep Dylan Iowa, it should be happier times for us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the call. 85 Sugar Bowl. I was a sophomore in high school. Tommy Hodson had Gary James and Dalton Hilliard. The Hilliard and James gang was the running backs for LSU. And the rumor was that supposedly LSU was talking mess or something to Nebraska during the game because LSU was up early. And then Nebraska rallied and put LSU away like they did so many times. But yeah, that was that 86 team for LSU was actually pretty good. And obviously, anytime you think about bowl games, it always takes you back to, whether it's a championship or what bowl games used to mean. And this is going to be big for Nebraska. Wherever they go, fans are going to have a chance to do something they haven't done in a while. But when you think back to what bowl games used to mean and what it meant on New Year's Day from the first thing at 10 o'clock in the morning, at least Central Time, all the way through the last game, a lot of times the Sugar Bowl at night, many times we didn't have any idea who was going to win a national championship till it was all over on that particular night. So yeah, that was a great time. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll get into some of the other things that Nebraska's did well yesterday, and also some of the things that went wrong. I mentioned again, Stephen M. Sipple will join us after 9 o'clock today. We'll do that when we come back here on Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone.
Pistol set. Dowdell the back behind Dillon. Twins to the near side. From the Badger 12. Banks motions. They give it off to Dante. He's got a seam. 10, 5. Touchdown, Nebraska.
Oh, Sharpie. You want to see Coach Halgerson pay dividends? Man-to-man formation. Down, kick out from Banks. They tried to run with the motion. You're a man short, and you got your best hallway runner, right? I mean, Dowdell's a guy that likes to just sprint down the hallway. Easy. Dillon knew it as soon as he handed it off. 2 times 3. That's 6. Give me all of them.
First and goal to 3. Emmett stays in. No, it's Dante Dowdell right behind Dillon in the pistol. 2 wideouts left. Now motioning is Banks. They give it off to Dante. Right in there. Touchdown, Nebraska. Dowdell's second rushing touchdown of the game. And Nebraska firmly in charge of this one at 33-10.
It looked to me, but I'll have to watch the tape. It looked to me like we really ran the ball well. And the drive before the half, we were in kind of a 2-minute boat, but we were in 12 personnel. We were in 2 tight ends. And that allowed us to kind of have a run-pass mix. And I just think that's I don't think that was planned. That just kind of, Dana was feeling it and the guys were moving the ball. So I would think so, but I'd have to watch the tape.
Welcome back to your reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. As I mentioned, we'll get to what went right, what went wrong. We'll look back at some of the issues the defense had, how good the offense was, some stats, too, that really show Nebraska and what they did and what they can accomplish under Dana Holgorsen on offense. Plus, we'll get later into the wild and wacky 12-team playoff and conference. The Big 12 now officially, because Colorado lost yesterday, is what they call a mess. And so we'll get into that as well later and getting all of that stuff as college football tries to figure out on Tuesday how they're going to rank these teams and what the brackets can look like. Let's go to the phones now, 402-951-1620. That's where Gary is this morning. Good morning, Gary.
Michael Severe,
What's up?
Man that does 2 great shows. The man that likes the New Orleans Saints.
That's me, yeah.
But now I'm going to have to take a quote from one of your NFL nemesis. What about those Huskers? And not only the football team. Wow.
Volleyball.
Basketball on Friday night.
Yep.
Football on Saturday.
Yep.
And the women's volleyball team Saturday night. What a great weekend for Husker sports. Now we can go hopefully 8-5 and not 6-7. But what a day in Nebraska sports. Love you, Mike, but what about those Huskers?
What about them, Gary? I appreciate you're right. I mean, I don't know if anybody expected them to sweep Wisconsin last night in volleyball. I know not a lot of people gave Nebraska basketball a lot of credit on Friday night. I was there. I was very excited about the whole thing, watching it. Nebraska's defense was incredible the way they played. They had a couple possessions where Creighton didn't even get a shot off. The fact that Ryan Kalkbrenner had 0 2-point shots made is incredible, or taken, which is even nuttier. They couldn't even get the ball into the big man. Yeah, what a weekend. Friday night, Nebraska basketball upsets Creighton in their house. Second time in 3 years to do that. Nebraska football, of course, takes care of business against Wisconsin, and then Nebraska volleyball takes care of Wisconsin last night in 3 sets. Amazing. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Don is this morning. What's up, Don?
What's up, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You feel good?
Yeah, man. But I know you enjoy watching Creighton lose whenever you can, don't you? Had to put that one in there.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, but see, here's the thing, though, right? Is we played Oklahoma in the 70s and had like a losing record to them,
Yeah.
Miami in the 80s,
right?
Florida State in the 90s. But going and losing games to like Wisconsin, bro, where you ain't winning, like you said, you ain't never touched a trophy. Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois.
Yeah.
And see, the thing, bro, the worst part is that they beating you the way that you used to play.
Yeah.
And you playing the way they used to lose. Can't do that. But now I wanted to ask you, because I actually think Colorado's, are they still eligible for the for the championship game in the conference?
Oh man, 8 teams in the Big 12 can still make the championship game with 1 week to go.
We love that. Hey man, but for their fans, you know what I mean? All of the fan bases get to be engaged in the game and that they all playing for something. So salute to them, bro. But now a couple things I want to ask you about, because I think Indiana's still in too. What do you think? Some people think that they lost so bad and that Howard put the SIG out, but I think that they still lit, bro. I think that somebody else has to beat them, you know, for it to be fair, right?
No, I'm with you. I the way they've beaten teams, and then with teams losing yesterday, with Ole Miss losing, the way that went down, I think you got a better chance now because some of the teams that are going to have 3 losses.
A&M,
yeah, I mean, if you're going to be
BYU.
9-3, should not get in over 11-1 as dominant as Indiana was through all their wins. I don't think so.
Hey, man, let me ask you a couple more questions, bro.
Go ahead, Bubba.
Because one thing I was kind of curious about that, like, really, I haven't heard stuff about, was the player touching and pushing, like, up on the ref, bro, or the ref pushing up on the player. Did you have any thoughts about that?
You talking about Shedeur yesterday?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Shedeur pushed him. He should have been ejected. The guy had his back to him. He's just trying to separate him from the other players, and Shedeur pushed him not once but twice. He should have been ejected. You can't touch the ref, man. It's a known rule. You can't do that.
Absolutely. So now the last thing I want to say, though, right, is that like that player was saying, you know, you don't have to love me. I love myself. You know what I mean? And salute to them, bro. I mean, you know, all of the players, and that's why I think that we get to kind of separate the player from the person. You know what I mean? Because we wish all the people well, but we just want the players to, you know, experience the game at the highest level that they're able to. Because, you know, when the coach is talking about like what the players been through, you know, now, I know like when you're talking about players from Temple and Baylor, you know, they've never, you know, nothing about the bowls and stuff like that. But when you're talking about Nebraska fans who go back to the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. And, you know, we you know, you play, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, man, but it's how you play and the way that you do it. And I'm just glad that we got you doing this show, man. I appreciate you.
No problem, Don. Thanks,
you,
man.
Mr. Severe.
Have a great Sunday, sir. Yeah, you know, I think what Jamal Banks was kind of saying is, and I think we've all gone through this sometimes in our lives, I mean, maybe if you hadn't, that's great for you, but you get to a point where you just really don't know why you're doing what you're doing, and you start questioning your purpose and that kind of thing. And maybe that sounds silly and all mushy to people, but it happens. It happens a lot when you're young, you know, you don't know. And when you get to that point, you start questioning everything about yourself. And I think what he was basically saying was, I had to figure out that what's important for me and what I do has to go above everything else, because that's how you're healthy. That's how you're mentally healthy. And I think that's what he's doing. And these last 2 games, I talked about this when Dana was hired. The X receiver in this system can have huge days, and maybe not huge, but 9 catches for over 100 yards over the last 2 weeks and a touchdown for Jamal Banks. Much better than what was happening before that. Let's go back to the phones. It's where Michael is this morning. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Hey, Michael. Thank you for taking my call.
No problem.
A couple things. You talk about 2016, the last bowl season.
Yeah.
My brother and I went down to Memorial Stadium and watched them play Wyoming.
Yeah.
Who you remember the quarterback for Wyoming?
Smith. Right?
Josh Allen.
The year they beat them. Okay, yeah.
They blew them out of the stadium. It was a crazy game.
I was thinking about the next time they played. Remember the next time they played, Wyoming came all the way back and almost won the game at the end with that Smith kid. That's what I was thinking about that game. Sorry. Go ahead.
Another thing, I heard this the other day where I work at. These 2 guys are having a conversation. I don't know how true this is, but Dylan Raiola went up to Matt Rule and said, if you don't get a change in the offensive coordinator, he's out of there. Do you believe these kids have that much power over these coaches? And I'll hang up and listen, Michael. Have a good day.
You have a good day too, Michael. I don't believe that Dylan Raiola would do something like that. That's just me. I don't know the kid personally, just listening to him, knowing his dad a little bit, knowing his uncle a little bit. I don't think that he did that. I mean, that's easy for somebody to throw that rumor out there and say it happened, but I don't think it happened. No, I think that they knew that this offense needed to get right in order for them to get the bowl eligibility, and it was critical to do that this year, and that's why he made the decision on a guy that he had tried to get before, right? He tried to get him. It didn't work out. Dana said that he was a little tired after the season and needed to go do some other things for a second, and he did those things. But he made the choice when he had to make the choice because they were at a point where they were miserable on offense. They were one of the worst teams in the country. I think they were 119th at the time. Needed to make a change. He made the change. I can't imagine. High school kids have a lot of power, but I don't believe that he would do something like that. One more call before we take a break. Let's go to KG this morning. What's up, KG? How you doing, Kevin?
I am doing great. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man.
Oh yeah, a little disappointed in Army not showing up yesterday, but hey,
I know you.
Right.
Well, I didn't expect much. Notre Dame's got so much damn talent, man. I didn't expect much.
I didn't expect much either. Hey, I have a few questions for you. What happened to Fedoni? Did he miss a block or did he get injured? What? He didn't see him later in the game.
Well, early on that first drive, he had the false start. And and after the false start, I really didn't see him much either, like you said.
Yeah. Okay. And so another question. Speaking of Rayola, his uncle. What about that O-line? I don't know what's going on with that. Because they're always bagging on him, and now they're kind of like producing a little bit, aren't they? So.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I've been saying all year the issue with the run game and the offense overall, the number one problem was not the offensive line. They were down the road. They were behind the running backs. They were behind the wide receivers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Hey, all right. Here's my questions for you. So, what besides tackling, but what was your biggest surprise on offense, and what was your biggest surprise on defense that you think?
All right, I'll get to that. Thanks, KG. I appreciate it. We're gonna take a break. We'll come back. We'll answer that question because we got to get a break. We're a little bit over. We'll do that. Reminder again: Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank, where they take banking personally and answer the phone in the first ring, and Nebraska Medicine, taking care of everything from when you're born to at the end. They do an amazing job over at Nebraska Medicine. We go over there quite a bit. That's the family medicine that I go to when I need some help as well. We'll come back. We'll do more Severe Reaction, answer KG's question here on 1620 The Zone.
Now they'll shuffle Barney. He sprints back to the left. Back to throw is Dillon. Little screen to Emmett. Makes a catch. 20, 25, 30. Cuts back to the middle of the field. He's at a 40. Still in the middle of the field at a 45 and leans his way to the 46-yard line. 26-yard pickup. Coleman makes the tackle for the Badgers. Borkacher to the near side. Snap back. Dillon looks. Holds. Goes over the middle. Back side of the end zone. Banks makes a catch. And it's a touchdown, Nebraska. We think.
Oh, let's hope your wry smile right there is of the good graces.
What a grab. Banks has had himself a half.
He's winning his one-on-ones. Let's take a look-see.
I think the biggest thing, and I think credit to Coach Holgorsen, what he's brought to the offense. Maybe it's play calling. I think the biggest thing he's brought is a little bit of swagger to them of like, we threw the touchdown to Nayor, but, he was out of bounds, right? So, typically that would be like, oh my gosh, we're snake bit. And he was just like, let's do it again. And then we threw a touchdown 2 plays later. So.
Welcome back to a reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. About those reviews, I thought the reviews were all correct. Nair couldn't get that left foot down somehow. It was very weird that left foot didn't come down. And then the right foot, the toe was right there on the line. It was really close. The touchdown that people were upset about, the touchdown in the corner of the end zone, I believe that was Vinny Anthony catching that one for Wisconsin. He caught the ball. His foot was down. He was then pushed. At that point, he's completed the catch in the end zone. In the end zone, that's a touchdown. Then, of course, he goes to the ground. Once he hits the ground, then the ball bounces away. It's different in the field of play than it is in the end zone. That's a touchdown. That was a good call by the officials. I know some people were upset about that. But I thought overall the officials had a decent day. I mean, you're always going to miss some holdings. You're gonna call some pass interferences that are kind of questionable, especially when you identify the wrong name of the person calling, getting the penalty. That makes everybody a little more upset. He actually said 2, which was the number of the receiver, not 8, which was the number of the person that did the PI. So anyway, I thought overall the referees had a much better day than they've had in the past. Let's go back to the phones. By the way, Emmett Johnson, 198 total yards yesterday. That is as complete a game for a Nebraska running back as we've seen in a long, long time. And I'm pretty sure on Big Red Wrap-Up on Tuesday night, he will be our offensive player of the week. Let's go back to Wyatt on the phones. What's up, Wyatt? How you doing, man?
Good morning, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Living.
Hey, so was it 2016 like the season, or 2016 the year that last time we were in the bowl?
2016 the season. The bowl game was during 2016 too.
Okay. So That means that I was in my first year of marriage last time we were in a bowl game.
Really? No. Yeah. First year of marriage, no kids, living out on the water, enjoying life.
It wasn't too bad.
I know.
And this morning, it was great, for Nebraska to wake up to Andy McDowell and not have to listen to "I Got You, Babe." It was a good day. Finally get out of Groundhog Day.
Very true. Very true. This is one of the first times in a long time I didn't have to use the phrase "deja vu" all over again.
I know. So just a kind of a side question, I guess. Going back to Fedoni, did those knee injuries just kind of derail his potential ceiling and future?
Yeah, he was much more. I saw him play in high school over at Lewis Central. He was much more. He was flexible. I thought just overall he could do things more athletically. You look at him now; he's so tall. He really struggles getting down and being able to make blocks. And Luke Lindenmeyer was blocking his butt off yesterday, so it didn't make sense to have Fedoni in there for the plays they were running. It made sense to have Luke Lindenmeyer in there. And then also Borkacher looked good catching the ball out of the backfield. Carter Nelson got time. So it sucks, but, Fedoni at this point is not athletic enough to really do that stuff.
Yeah, that's why I was just kind of worried. I feel bad for him because I feel like that he's never going to be able to reach the potential that we saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Have a good day, man.
Oh, you too. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I agree. It's injuries suck, man. And we used to always joke, and as I'm a guy that's had a lot of knee injuries, for every knee surgery you have, a major knee surgery, it takes like 4 years off your life, man. And this guy's had 2 major ACL reconstructions, 2 rehabs from that. And later in life, he's probably going to have an arthritic knee. He's going to have to get a knee replacement. I mean, he's in a tough spot right now athletically. He can still get vertical and make a catch and still run a little bit, but some of those more the lateral stuff he's got to do, it's just really hard for him. One more break before one more call before we take a break. Let's go to Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Hey, I have a question. Do you think I see the offense change when he hired Dan Hogerson?
Yeah.
And do you believe that on the defense, Tony White, that Matt Rule is putting too much of his input into the defense, and Tony White don't have complete autonomy to call the defense like Dan Hogerson did? Now,
no, I think that Tony White's got the most power of any of the assistant coaches. I think Tony completely runs the defense, takes care of the whole thing, all the levels. The problem is their secondary is struggling mightily right now. And remember, they changed the secondary coach before the season because of whatever happened. And that's what's really struggling. They're missing so many tackles. They're not coming downhill in the right place. They're getting beat on one-on-one. That's what's really hurting the team right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was wondering about that. Did Matt Rule, because he said that he's conservative, and Satterfield was calling the plays. It was conservative.
Yeah.
Now you bring Dana in, totally different. So thank you.
No problem. I appreciate it. No, I think the philosophy that Matt Rule has on defense fits perfectly with what Tony White does. Perfectly. What he was talking about was offense. Offense, he's more conservative guy. He needed somebody to come in and kind of break that up, and that's what Dana Hogerson did. I think they had four total, and we'll get to some of the stats, but I think they had 4 total 20-plus yard passes yesterday. They had like 7 10-yard runs, plus yard runs yesterday. They had 29 first downs. They had 5 completions of 20 or more yards. That's an explosive kind of day. And so they got that done. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Of course, Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine. If you're looking for a great employment opportunity, go to Nebraska Medicine's website, and they do have lots of employment opportunities there for you as well. Back with more Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone.
First and 10 Badgers. Down by 24 points to the Big Red.
Looked like that was on Ty and not Nash. That's a couple of times we haven't called the right number.
To right. Play action. Stepping, throwing toward the end zone. And a pass is going to be caught, I believe. Touchdown. Badgers. Bryson Green went up and got it. Kept looking for a strike to put the hands in the air. They feel like he got his foot down. And that's 6 points.
Yeah.
See you right on the coverage.
Just climbed all on his toes. Didn't get out of his back pedal quick enough.
First and 10. 42-yard line. Walker's the back. Locking the gun. Claps the hands. Fakes the handoff. Back to throw. Taking a deep shot downfield as a man after Anthony. He makes a catch to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. So the Badgers hit the Huskers with the big shot over the top.
And so I can't thank, Ty and Giff and Nash and all those guys enough. Bryce, they've trusted it. And, whether it was Buschini putting the ball out of the 2, it just comes down to players making plays. And so I hope as we come in tomorrow, our players have a much better picture of what's possible when you do things at the level they're capable of. And, we got into a bowl game. We have another opportunity on Friday to go play another game and a rivalry game, and it should mean a lot to us.
Welcome back to a reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. Later in the 9 o'clock hour, we'll go over what it takes for whomever to get to the Big 12 title game because it is complicated. I want to go over some of the stuff that I thought that was concerning because so many things were good, right? But Wisconsin ended up the day 7.4 yards per play. I thought last week with USC going 6.4, I thought, ooh, that's not good. Wisconsin came in the game averaging 5.4 yards a play and had 2 more yards than that. They had 407 yards. That's back-to-back games where Nebraska's defense has given up over 400 yards. Now, I know when you have a lead and there's a trailing game script for a team, they throw the ball a lot. But that also normally means you have an opportunity to get a lot of pressure on that quarterback because they have to throw. Despite that, according to the game stats, Nebraska only had 3 quarterback hurries. And according to PFF, they only had 7 total pressures. You got a team in a trailing game script where you're up double digits for a lot of the game. They have to throw, and you can't get pressure on them. That's concerning. Braden Locke, who, let's just say, hadn't been playing great, okay? He was the quarterback of the 109th whatever offense. He had 92 yards passing against Oregon the week before. He came out like Joe Montana, dude. He was on fire. 20 of 30 for 292 and 3 passing touchdowns. Wisconsin was without their leading receiver in terms of catches, but their leading receiver in terms of yards. He played and had a big day. Vinny Anthony had 7 catches for 137 yards. He had that touchdown. He had the early play where Gifford came up to make the tackle and missed the tackle, and he got a long gain on that. Even with the trailing game script, the Badgers running back still had 25 carries for 116 yards. That's 4.6 a clip. 51 of that only came on 2 carries, so that kind of skews the numbers. But next week, you go against arguably the second best running back in the country in Caleb Johnson, who in the first half had over 100 yards yesterday, ended up with like 35 carries yesterday for Iowa. But Iowa did what Iowa does. They ran the hell out of the ball. They played great defense. They kept Maryland under 300 yards. And they kicked a bunch of field goals, 5 field goals, and won the game. Their quarterback was, I think he was 10 of 14 for like 70 yards. That's what they do, right? That's how they win games. People are like, they're going on the road with their 4th-string quarterback. How are they going to? Look, they do what they do. That's what Iowa does. And with the way Nebraska tackled, I'm going to talk about that. Missed tackles was number 2 in terms of the real concerns coming out of this game because you still have one more game. You're still going to your rivalry game, 6:30. Kinnick Stadium is going to be cold. I think it's going to be like in the low 20s next week or on Friday for that. All the missed tackles. Isaac Gifford, according to PFF, had 3 missed tackles. Singleton had several as well. And the overall secondary really struggled. Everybody got beat for something. Even Bly Hill, who hadn't played a lot because, he had that injury during the spring game, he came in, got beat for a deep shot. Sierra Wright got beat. Buford got beat. Hartsaw got picked on a ton. So it was like everybody in the secondary at some point was having some sort of coverage issue. You only had one of all the secondary guys that had a decent coverage grade according to PFF. It was tough, man. It was tough to watch. And when you have a defense that's playing like that, and again, the offense played great, and the defense for most of the season has carried Nebraska. So you can say, listen, it's their chance to not play as well when the offense is playing better. But again, you're going to Iowa City on Friday. The team's going to line up, and they're going to run the ball on you, and they're not going to stop. USC had the opportunity 2 weeks ago, right, with Marks, to, I think, really put that game away, but got away from running the ball because that's what Lincoln Riley does. Iowa's not going to get away from running the ball. Iowa's going to keep running the ball. You can't have that many whiff tackles. You can't have that many times where not one, not two, but three defenders get their hands on a running back or a wide receiver and don't take them down. This can't happen. And too many times we saw that against USC, and then it was worse against Wisconsin. And I don't know why. Sometimes we talk a lot about the emotion of Senior Day, and it's awesome. It's great. We're celebrating the careers of some guys who've been here for 6 years. We're celebrating the career for some guys who've been here like 6-8 months. But we're celebrating them. And there is an emotion on that day that sometimes you get so amped for the day that as the game goes along, you've used up so much of your emotional energy. So that happens sometimes. I've had players tell me that, former Husker players who have taken part in Senior Day, who say, yes, it can take something out of you, but there's really no excuse for the way that secondary is tackling right now. The defensive line wasn't great. I mentioned the pressure numbers. I thought Ty Robinson had a really good day. Nash had his moments. Some of the young guys, Willis McGahee didn't have a ton of plays. He played really well. Princewell, Oman Yellen, played really well. Had a limited amount of plays, but played really well. But overall, not great. Linebackers, I thought, played great. I thought Bullock had a good day. MJ Sherman had some moments of that one play behind the line of scrimmage where he ran down the line of scrimmage and tackled the runner from behind. Great play. You saw some guys playing well. But it goes back to what happened in the secondary. I know that, and this is thanks to Husker Online, they always post the PFF stats, and this is PFF defensive stats. And the majority of the snaps, Isaac Gifford and Deshaun Singleton played basically the whole game, every snap. Every snap. Deshaun Singleton's tackle grade wasn't horrible, 67.3. He missed a couple. Isaac Gifford, 36 was his tackling grade. That's the lowest grade of anybody on here. Really struggled. And that's something that we've seen for the last couple of weeks. I don't know if maybe he's banged up. He could be. I mean, another guy who's had his share of injuries and different things that happen to his body, so maybe he's not as athletic as he was. Maybe he's just, at this part of the season, just really banged up guy. But, you had Marcus Buford, who had a low tackling grade, and his run defense wasn't great. Pass coverage was okay. The best of all the guys in the secondary in pass grade was Marcus Buford, and that was a 60. It's okay. It's not great. Husker Online, and I believe that Robin Washut does this, but he said no unit struggled more than Nebraska on Saturday than the secondary. No defensive back owned an overall grade of higher than 62.7. The group combined for 6 of NU's 10 missed tackles. Isaac Gifford had 3 of those misses and posted his second lowest tackling grade of the season. Wisconsin went after Malcolm Hartzog early and often, targeting him a team-high 7 times for 5 completions for 72 yards. Buford and Sierra Wright didn't fare much better, allowing combined 6 catches for 70 yards, 2 touchdowns over 8 targets. And then Bly Hill made his season debut, played 22 snaps, and he gave up that deep ball, 58-yard touchdown. So the secondary is the real issue. Now, no one's expecting Iowa to throw the ball on Nebraska and really challenge them that way. But those guys still have to tackle. They still have to come up and make those plays. And yesterday, that did not happen. 402-951-1620. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will catch up with Stephen M. Sipple on the other side of the hour. We'll talk about everything that happened, all the streaks that got broken and stuff as well. We'll get into some of the keys. Take your phone calls as well at 402-951-1620 here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Lock down, half over. What a half for Nebraska. Huskers 24, Badgers 10, as both teams retreat to the locker room.
So honestly, Sam, today my speech to them in the locker room was, I would give anything to do this for you, but I can't. You have to go do it, And so my emotion was that. I wanted them to have that moment. Again, as I said to you guys, I wasn't going to worry about the refs. I was just going to worry about trying to play better. And I think the guys are just getting better. We have a freshman quarterback out there. Like, he's going to get better every week, right? Like, we have young players. We have guys who have. So I just think seeing the guys, seeing the way they work every day, knowing that they're here. They hear all the noise, and they probably have their own questions. Like, Coach, you're working us really hard, and we're not getting what we want. But no one's ever accomplished anything in life by quitting halfway through.
Welcome back to Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. So many times when Matt Rule talks, he is, and he sounds like a dad, right? Just a dad. That's what he sounds like whenever he talks. So many times you want to do stuff for your kids, but they've got to do it themselves, or they'll never learn how to do it, right? And that's how he talks. And that's what he was right about. So many times he's right about that sort of thing. But let's get to the phones. And the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen M. Sipple, Husker Online, on the network, joining us here on Severe Reaction. Sip, how you doing, man?
Good morning. I hope my voice is okay.
Were you partying last night after the game, or what?
No. I just haven't spoken too much yet this morning.
I completely understand, man. What you talked about this when you wrote last night, and we read this morning on Husker Online. But what's the biggest surprising drought? Was it the fact that they hadn't made a bowl in as long as they did, or was it the fact that they hadn't beaten Wisconsin since 2012?
Bowl drought.
Yeah.
It's not a resounding. I don't answer that as emphatically as it sounds, but I'd still go to bowl drought. It's just, in some ways, it was almost unfathomable that they would go that long between bowl appearances.
Yeah.
They're the only power conference team that had gone that long. And you wouldn't expect it to be Nebraska.
Yeah.
You might expect like a Georgia Tech. No, I don't want to pick on a bunch of teams, but you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
Nebraska, because of the scene. If you just so you don't overthink it, or I don't overthink it, just look at the scene yesterday at that stadium. It's a big time atmosphere that you don't find everywhere. I've been to a lot of places. It's not even close in some places.
Right.
So that's why. So it's good. That conversation's over, and that's a good thing for everybody.
No doubt. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and 3 different podcasts did trivia questions where they asked the question, which Power 4 team had the longest bowl drought? And on all 3 of them, people struggled to come up with it. I'm yelling Nebraska, but it's just a surprise that a team with that cachet over the years could be in that position. And the amount of investment, that's the thing, right? It's the investment that Nebraska puts in this sport. For them not to get more out of it over these last 8 years is just remarkable.
Yeah, and the investment takes on various forms. It's a financial investment,
Yep.
but it's also an emotional investment. It's a time investment. It's a passion investment. And all of that, yeah, it never made sense to me. And now the Wisconsin losing streak made a little more sense. Wisconsin was good, has been very good. Now, this team is a shadow. This particular Wisconsin team is a shadow of what it normally is.
Yeah.
But, you think back on those teams that they've had in the decade, or really since 2011, there's been some really good Wisconsin teams.
Yeah, the thing is, and Matt Rule kind of brought this up, was so many of those games, though, Nebraska was either even or even leading going into the fourth quarter, and Wisconsin did to Nebraska what Nebraska used to do to teams. And that was probably the thing about that series that was most upsetting, is they just out-physicaled Nebraska in fourth quarters in many of those games.
Yeah, and that, I'm thinking, listen, as Nebraska struggled, that's a recurring theme, not just with Wisconsin,
right,
but with other teams too. And yeah, that's part of it. There's a lot that goes into all the losing Nebraska's done in the last 7-8 years. There's a lot that goes into it. And that's the thing. Now, the thing I keep saying is and this is, I guess I should have written this. I can write it this week, but as you're rebuilding or building a program, I think the hardest step is the one Nebraska's trying to make right now, and that's from going to losing close games to winning close games.
Right.
And then there'll be a step of, winning big, often sprinting away from teams. But Nebraska's not. They're not there. They're not even close to that.
Yeah.
They got to get this. I think the toughest step is going from losing close games to winning close games. And we've seen how agonizing it is. So that's a lot of, yesterday wasn't a close game, but it was a step. It was a real important step because it ended this very awkward conversation. Ended two awkward conversations, really.
Yeah, Steve Sipple joining us here on Sphere Reaction. The funny thing is, it can happen in one season. You look at Lance Leipold in Kansas, losing a bunch of close games. Then they play 3 straight ranked teams, and they beat all 3 of them. Sometimes it just changes on its own, but all they did really was they didn't make the mistakes they made in the first 6 games or 7 games. It's just crazy.
I know. And sometimes guys get healthy, key players get healthy, but those guys, like what Lance did and what Rule apparently is doing now, that I really admire the coaches that it looks like the team has maybe swirled out of control.
Sure.
It looks like it's swirling the drain, so to speak. And then they come back from the dead. And Kansas did that. Baylor did it. Baylor's a great example of that, too. It looked like they were in trouble. It looked like Aranda was going to lose his job, Dave Aranda.
Yeah.
And they won 4 straight. I don't know what they did yesterday. But I admire Rule for holding this together. The guys play. The guys kept playing. It wasn't a perfect picture because we saw last week, at least one guy that kind of cash it in. But it hasn't been perfect, but it's been good. And yesterday they obviously played hard and really got as close to a complete game as Nebraska's gotten all year.
Yeah, and it's the way it happened for Baylor is even crazier because they lost the game. They shouldn't have lost on that Hail Mary to Colorado. So you could think, okay, now you're going to quit. But they won again yesterday against Houston, so they took care of business. I know that Stephen M. Sipple likes to poo-poo even decent rush games because it's not old-time Nebraska. But was it enough yesterday from Butch and Sundance back there in the backfield for you to say, okay, that was a good running performance?
Yeah, I will poo-poo 119 yards rushing, usually.
Yes, you will.
Like what they got at USC. But no, yesterday was a great picture, I thought. Mainly from Emmett Johnson, who I thought that's as good as he's looked since he's been in Nebraska. Definitely. It was really promising.
Yep.
He looked more explosive to me. He kept his feet, in certain situations where it seems like he would go down in the past. He always runs hard. The one thing about these backs, and I say it all the time, I never fault how hard they run. They run hard. Dante Dowdell always runs hard. Emmett Johnson always runs hard. They ran to daylight. They both of them, mainly Emmett. Emmett had a great game. And they broke tackles. I thought the vision was good. It's all, to me, mostly about vision.
Sure.
And that picture was good. It was very good. Very good. It wasn't Amon Green, but it's good. And Dowdell, I've said all along, inside the 5, he's really good inside the 5.
Yeah.
He really is a forceful runner and has excellent intentions inside the 5. It's just a vision discussion with Dante Dowdell. A vision and kind of maybe some patience at the second level. Just, you don't have to have a full head of steam all the time. But I like the way it looked yesterday. It was a huge part of the game. And Michael, offensive line the last 2 games has been really good.
Hey, I think it's been good most of the season. I've been preaching that the whole season that they've been playing well, but it's running backs you know what Dowdell does? You know what he needs to do?
You ever go to the mall or someplace and you see the mom and she's got that little retractable leash on her kid? They need to attach that to whoever the puller is and then attach it to Dante and say, follow this guy. That's your puller. That's where you're supposed to go. When he does that, he's a great runner when he follows the puller.
I just think here's the thing I would say about Dante, and maybe I've said it on your show. Don't give up on him. He's only a sophomore, and guys develop at different rates. I see so much potential there that it would be a criminal act to give up on him.
Yeah.
Caleb Johnson's a great example. Caleb Johnson he hasn't been a 1,200-yard runner till this year at Iowa. He was sort of pedestrian in his first couple of years in that program. He was better than Dowdell has been, but guys, sometimes, Jack McVay's playing for the Houston Rockets now, okay?
Yep.
Do you remember him?
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely.
At Nebraska?
Mm-hmm.
I always want to kind of shout it to the heavens that sometimes guys come on later than you want.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to give them time because guys develop at much different rates sometimes.
Yeah. Caleb had that injury last year that really hurt him, Johnson, the running back for Iowa, as Sip would say. But the year before that, I thought that he had real potential. The difference is I don't know if you can learn vision. You can get better balance. I think you can increase your acceleration. You can get stronger. I don't know if vision is something that is something you can learn. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I'm not talking about like his eyesight.
No, I know.
Yeah, right.
Track.
It is. No, I hear what you're saying, and I wonder about it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the other word in that is patience. I think better vision comes with better patience at that position.
Right.
He's just so intent on getting upfield sometimes, and I just want to say, just slow down a second here.
Yeah.
Now go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the picture looked good. The offensive picture looked good.
Slow to the hole, fast through the hole. That's the way it's got to be. Let me answer me out of the three things that I kind of charted down for Dana's play calling kind of changing. One, getting the ball better to your X receiver. If you look over the last two games, Jamal Banks 9 for 107 and a touchdown. The 4 games before they only had 7 catches. Getting in and out of just the play faster, getting the play in and running the play, or scheming open guys. Like, for example, on that third down where they got Emmett Johnson wide open. What are those 3 things would you say is more that you like more about what Dana's doing?
1 and 3. If you really pin me down, I'd say 3. Scheming open guys. I guess the operation part's really important. I don't know. That can't be that hard. But yeah, scheming open guys. Isn't it interesting, Michael? Now you're more, I don't know, you just have a better football mind than I do. But what I would say is a layman can watch these last 2 games, a layman like myself, and you just intuitively understand that the play calling's better. The operation's better.
Yeah.
The play calling it makes more sense. There's more rhythm to it. The execution's better. Mainly though, it just makes more sense to me. And there's guys open. So I don't know.
Why are they open? Why are they open? It's not because they can't get off press coverage. Why are they open? He's scheming them to get open. I've been preaching this for pre-snap movement, motion, crossing routes, mesh. Right, they ran 3 mesh routes on 1 damn play to get a guy open. I mean, give me more of that.
Right. And I don't know. I wish it would have happened earlier because they do have some guys.
Yeah.
Now, but getting off press coverage was a real thing, and beating man, their inability to beat man has been a real thing. But I think what's happening is Holgorsen knows how to work around those issues. Look at his resume. He was a coordinator. As a coordinator, he had 6 top 10 offenses. He just happens to know what he's doing, and he's incredibly valuable. Now, I hope he's in the program next year. but you're seeing his value as our other teams. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'm not calling Braden Locke Joe Montana, but do you see how many times guys were covered and he made throws to covered receivers? That's what you have to do against man. A guy is open when he's between the defender and the ball.
Right. I totally agree with you. Now, some of that is the quarterback issue, so that's what you're saying, and that's right. Man to man, and just like in basketball, to me, I don't know. I played at a level, and I hated man to man. I mean, if Gary Godowski's covering me man to man, it's a problem, right?
Right.
If Fremont's in a zone, okay, thank you for playing zone tonight, so I don't have to deal with a guy like Jerry Godowski. Man to man is a whole different animal. It's a tougher animal to deal with if you're not a really good football player. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it separates people, but good coaching, just like in basketball, can alleviate some of the stress that man-to-man puts on an offense.
Stephen M. Sipple and L. Kent Wagamont, two very underrated high school basketball players. That I know for a fact. I know that for a fact. Couple last things. So there is the idea that we have to talk about of the lack of tackling ability yesterday, and how poor the secondary is playing now, back-to-back weeks. How concerned are you about what's happening back there?
Well, you have to be concerned. The concern is somewhat diminished by the fact you're playing Iowa. Seriously, I mean,
but you still got to tackle. They have to tackle. They're not covering great, but they're also not tackling great. They're not doing either one well.
No, there's no, you're right. But it's a concern. If you play Ole Miss in the bowl game or something like that, or Texas A&M, good God, you better get that under control. I don't know what to say about it. Receivers are far too open. I don't know if I got to look at the game again. Tony did Tony White threw up some red flags last week when for instance, he brought 3 of them actually in his Tuesday news conference where he at one point said, we were okay against the run against USC early in the game. We were stoning them. They made some schematic and personnel tweaks, and I was slow to adjust to them. I mean, how slow? You can't be that slow.
Yeah.
And I mean, and even saying that during the week, maybe some things are during the week of preparation, the week of practice, we're not getting through to some messages through to some guys. I don't know what all that means, but it didn't sound good to me,
right.
especially 10 games in. So, that unit. But now it did rise up in key moments. The unit as a whole,
short yardage, definitely.
Yeah, they're good short yardage. They've been a good short yardage defense.
Yep.
And they'll make some key plays. They gave up 400 plus to Wisconsin. That's not good.
They gave up 7.4 yards a play after giving up 6.4 last week, which is obviously concerning. Yeah, and you mentioned Iowa. That's the next game, obviously. And Iowa was Iowa yesterday. Ran the hell out of the ball, kicked 5 field goals, and played great defense. Biggest challenge going against them on Friday in Kinnick at nighttime?
Oh, I mean, without having seen them play, I did see them play actually against UCLA. They weren't very good.
No, they weren't. They didn't run the ball well at all against UCLA.
No, it's Caleb Johnson.
Yeah.
But I just think he's the type of runner that Nebraska's been pretty good against. I don't have any major concerns against Iowa. I really don't, except it's just Iowa. It helps that Nebraska's playing representative special teams now, and in some cases just very good special teams. So that you feel good about that part. Iowa's defense isn't as strong as it has been. So it just looks like it looks like a toss-up type game to me.
So are you comparing Caleb Johnson to like Monungai or more like Marks when you say that they're back they've been good against?
He doesn't remind me of Marks. Marks is shiftier.
Okay.
Marks is going to hurt you more catching the ball too.
Okay.
Without looking at Caleb Johnson's stats, I'm just thinking about what I've seen from Caleb Johnson just with my eyeballs. I don't worry about his versatility as much as Marks. I would take it's a close race between Marks and Caleb Johnson for me. Marks is really good. Johnson's got better stats. He's a bigger, more powerful runner, which I usually like.
Yeah.
But but he's he is what he is. He's going to hammer away at you. You just can't let him get through those creases.
Yeah, you can't let him get a big one. That's what you can't get. Can't get a big one.
Oh no.
Yeah, can't get a big one. Yeah. Sip, we appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you this week.
Thank you, Michael. Take care.
Later, Sip. Yeah, Stephen M. Sipple, Husker Online. When we come back, we'll look at some of the things that went great and the keys, and I'll tell you how a team, actually two of them from Big 12, can make the Big 12 championship game. It's pretty complicated. We come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
That 54-yarder at Ohio State. Made a couple of kicks last week. Snap down, the kick sailing towards the uprights, and the kick is gone. John Hall. Good again.
We had some missed since Purdue, right?
Correct. Snap back. Buschini puts it down. Kick sailing towards the uprights, and the kick is good. Another one through there. He has not missed since the Purdue game. John now 8 of 12 on the year. This will be a 26-yard attempt. Not much different than a PAT. So John can get 3 more on the board. Snap down, kick up, and the kick is good. Boy, 3 for 3 today for John.
Just think about what he's done to improve this year. I mean, from there were days that, I don't say this to embarrass. There was a day or two when we kicked field goals in practice where he didn't make one. And, I told you guys, I sat there that day talking to him when he was in the hot tub, and I was like, hey, you'll get through this at some point, I promise you. And just to see him, just the faith we had in him. But that was really important coming out of the half. We could have had a touchdown there, too, coming out of the half.
Yeah, winning the welcome back to Sphere Reaction on 1620 Zone, winning the middle third the way they did. You get a touchdown, you get the great forced fumble, kick a field goal, and then you go down and you have a great chance to score a touchdown, but you get a field goal. 13 points in the middle 8 is outstanding. And winning the special teams the way they did in a big way. You have the opening kickoff, 45 yards to Corey Barney, get him started early on. 3 of 3 versus missing 2 field goals for Wisconsin. Bushimi had a boomer, and he had the one down to the 2-yard line. They did give up the 44-yard kickoff return after the personal foul on Mazuka for spiking the ball after the touchdown. But overall, you had the 69th best special teams versus the 4th, one of the best special teams in the Big Ten and the country, and Nebraska dominated the matchup of special teams. And so another thing that certainly went right for Nebraska yesterday against Wisconsin. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Old Man Doug is. Old Man Doug, who spent Friday bragging that he beat Dave Hoppin in a high school basketball game. Hello,
I
Doug.
did.
I know. I heard you.
Excuse me. We did. He had selective memory. He was only a sophomore and I was a senior, but still.
Yeah, he said he wasn't very good. So he grew a lot from sophomore year to senior year.
He did.
Yeah.
And I fronted him, and he didn't have much of a vertical. And I was 6'4", so they couldn't throw it over me. So I just kept knocking it out of bounds. So
wow, look at you, big
he
Doug.
didn't. He didn't score. So what a sports weekend. I have to tell you, I can't stand Wisconsin even more than I can't stand Iowa.
Really?
Oh, their fans are just.
They are horrible.
And they're front runners,
Yeah.
But anyway, and then beating Uncle Fester in a nightcap was the cherry on the top. Because, my doppelganger, came through and they really wanted that game. And they just really curb stomped them. Wisconsin, and then Wisconsin's losing a lot in volleyball. I know this is a football show, but Nebraska is going to be really, really good for Jason, as long as Cook is there for sure. And then there's good coaches that can come in. But
yep.
John Holt, I think we have our number one kicker. I think that'll be an interesting off season.
Yep.
Whether, both he and Alvano stay, or if Alvano stays, because to me right now, it's Holt's job to lose.
Yep.
And then, I don't know, did you watch the first time I've ever seen a fan make that 30-yard field goal, and he smoke-wagoned it? It would have been good from 50.
He was the kicker for Lincoln Southwest.
That makes sense.
That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
But other than the secondary, I thought everyone played really well overall.
Yeah.
And I don't think Dylan missed a throw. Honestly, I think the ones that weren't caught were right there on the hands. He didn't throw one bad ball into trouble, I didn't think, and I haven't rewatched the game, but
yeah.
It is. I hope we can keep Holgerson. That would be huge. And everyone's wondering what we're going to pay him. Well, really, there's no sense in paying him any more than we're paying. It's not going to matter. You can give him some huge raise, but maybe you can have a breakfast buffet every morning in his hotel room or his apartment or his house or wherever he stays, and a life supply of Red Bull and whatever else, every beverage he likes. But I mean, I hope that we get another year out of him, and then maybe there's some protege that can, and then with Satterfield, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. But, for once we're talking about a bowl game, and where I was the last time, I wasn't running Equitable Bank.
Oh, really?
I was at a different bank.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I've been here 11 and a half years. And
okay, yeah, but that was 8 years ago was the last bowl. 8 years.
Oh, but I thought it was since we beat Wisconsin. Maybe.
Yeah, Wisconsin was 2012. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been to three. I've been to 3 bowl games. I went to the Clemson game where they called holding on Remington because Danny Ford, and then they called him offside.
Yep.
The reason he looked offsides, and my boss played for Nebraska, was a defensive tackle. Dave would snap at half a count early. That's why he looked offside, and he was quick. He
was really quick.
slow.
Yeah, right.
And so then I went to where Osborne won his first one, which was unbelievable. And I sat in the same seats both games, 30-yard line. They were my aunt and uncle's tickets. They were Miami Dolphins season ticket holders.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to the Rose Bowl, which was one of the best times of my life up until the game started.
Yep.
Hey, great show, Michael. You're such a professional. Appreciate it. So for me, I got 2 out of 3. But if I had to say you only get 2 out of 3, those would have been the 2 out of 3 I would have chosen. So Creighton, will go on. They're not that good this year, honestly. Nebraska played great defense. I think they should have tried to get it into Kalkbrenner a little bit more. But, hats off to them. They won the game. They were the better team that night.
No doubt, Doug. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Yeah, they tried to get the ball in the Kalkbrenner, just couldn't. I mean, you had a rotation of 3 defenders from Nebraska, which I believe at halftime combined they had 6 fouls. I think it was 3, 2, and 1, if I remember correctly, at halftime. And so they were doing everything they could, including fouling Kalkbrenner to stop the ball from getting in there. But yeah, it was a hell of defensive performance by Nebraska, and congratulations to them playing the way they did at CHI and taking care of business. And then obviously, Nebraska beating Wisconsin in 2 on Saturday were pretty incredible as well. A hell of a weekend for Nebraska sports in general. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get back to your calls. 951-1620, 402-951-1620. We'll get into some of the keys of the game as well. We come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Kicking toward the north end zone is Vakos. High snap, gets it down, kick sailing up, and the kick is no good. He missed it.
Telling you.
So the delay of game cost the Badgers 3 points, and the Huskers turnover turns into nothing. Snap down, kick is up, and this kick is no good. Missed it off to the left. Vakos is now 1 for 3 today. Came in 11 of 15. 2 big misses. Huskers take over with their 4-point lead intact. Walker's the back, locking the gun. 2 to the near side, 1 eligible to the far side. Terrific job by Banks again of getting that toe down. Walker gets the handoff, fires forward for about 5. Ball comes out at the end, and Nebraska might have it at the 31-yard line. Nash, I think, has got the ball. Well, or somebody's coming out there with it. Was it Thompson? So do your hot potato dance or whatever's your dance of choice. Huskers force a turnover.
Even at halftime, I was like, we turned the ball over on the 20-yard line, so they gave our offense did. We missnapped it on third down for again. We had a penalty after a touchdown that led to a good kickoff return. So, we dropped a couple touchdowns. So there was still a ton of plays that were left out there. I just think Dylan was really on, and we ran the football really well. Ja'Cory worked the middle of the field. But, I thought Emmett was, first 100-yard rusher of the season. But, also catching the ball in the backfield. The tight end showed up.
Welcome back to a reaction here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Equitable Bank. They take banking personally. And Nebraska Medicine, taking care of you from when you're born all the way to where you're just trying to, be okay at that point. But do a great job over at Nebraska Medicine. We appreciate them for being a part of the show. The middle 8, the fast start, and Dylan pretty much being on point the whole game. Those are 3 of the biggest reasons. Without even mentioning Emmett Johnson and Dowdell in the red zone and in short yardage and all that. I mean, it was as complete an offensive performance that Nebraska's had against this level of competition, because Wisconsin still had a pretty good rated defense. It was by far the best you're going to see. They had 29 Nebraska had 29 first downs. That's incredible. 29 first downs. 5 completions of 20 yards or more. It's a really good day. 4 times Dylan Raiola had at least 4 completions in a row during that game as well. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Grant is this morning. Good morning, Grant.
Hey, good morning, Michael. First, been following you for 15, 20 years, so it's just always a shout-out. You're top notch. You're one of the best out here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Number 2, what are our bowl projections? What are the 1 to 2 spots we might likely end up?
Well, the thing about Nebraska is that because of the attraction of them going to a bowl game, they'll probably get pushed up 1 to 2 bowls. It all depends on really what happens with these Big Ten teams going into the college football playoff. That's a big thing. Are they going to get just 4? How many are they going to get is a big deal. And then, so Detroit obviously is the one that gets mentioned the most, but I think they're too popular to go to Detroit. I still believe that Tennessee isn't going to Nashville is still a possibility, but we'll see more of the bowl predictions coming out this week, and then we'll figure it all out after Iowa. But I think Nebraska's going to get pushed up 1 or 2 bowls because of the fan base.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree with that. Number 2, there was in the reaction show yesterday on this channel, there were folks that were saying, golly, we don't want Tony White back. We're still not sure about special teams. I'm going, what do you guys want? Special teams has improved. Tony White, the goal line stances and the rush to the ball, I know there were some tackling issues, but they really seemed to stand up when they needed to. I don't know. I'm such a believer. I'm old enough to have been around during the Osborne consistency years that I just think you got to let guys grow, including your coaches. I just wondered if you had a reaction to that.
Well, and I appreciate the Grant. I appreciate the call. Let me say that Tony White's defense is struggling in spots right now that go back to 1, injury, and 2, I think it's the change in defensive backs coach before the season started. And I think these guys aren't playing with the confidence they played with last year. And that's a big problem with it. They're still doing very well in terms of stop and stuff tackles, the line of scrimmage. I think the linebackers have come along. They're playing really well. It's a secondary. That's the weak link. Do you bring back Tony White? If he wants to come back, yes. If he gets another job someplace else, I understand. But I'd bring him back. Yes, the special teams has played much better. You can say it's all about the field goal kicking, but it's the operation of the field goal kicking. Some of the snaps are still high, but Bushini's getting them down. Bushini's gotten more confident and just more consistent over it. Yes, the kickoff return defense is It's a little questionable. They had a couple kickoff return defenses, but the secondary is gone. The special team has gone from ranking 120 something to, I bet you by this week when the numbers come out, they'll be in the mid 60s or maybe even the high 50s. He's done a lot of things. I think Foley's still around. I don't know if he's the special teams coordinator, but I think he's still around. I think Tony White, as long as he doesn't get a job anywhere else, he's still around. There's going to be changes. If Dana Holgorsen is hired, he's going to be allowed to bring in his guys. So quarterback coach, maybe wide receivers coach, maybe running backs coach could all change, mainly because Dana's going to get to bring in his own guys to run his offense. So those certainly can change. But in terms of special teams, played much better. And yes, the defense has had a rough week, especially in the secondary, but I do believe that Tony White runs the system and understands defense pretty darn well, and I think he'd be back if he wants to be. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951. Let's go to 951-1620, the whole number. Go to Andy. Good morning, Andy. How are you?
Pretty good, Michael. I just got a quick question. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
If the Big 12 saw what Shadur did yesterday, could they step in and suspend him? Because I'll tell you what, that's a big no-no to touch it rough. I mean, that just blows my mind that he would even do something that stupid.
No, I agree. I think they could. They can always retroactively go back and penalize him or give him some sort of suspension. I think they could. And I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen, because he touched him twice, really.
Yeah. And another thing, too, I just wanted to say it was a great weekend because the Buckeyes took down Indiana. I can't stand them. Another thing, I'm happy to see Kansas. I cannot believe they're unranked and they beat 3 ranked teams, and they really took it to Colorado yesterday. That was a good game. So enjoy the day. Thanks.
You too, Andy. I appreciate it, man. I really enjoyed that as well. Kobe on the chat says the DB's lack of athleticism is getting exposed. I mentioned that over and over again. Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially Gifford's and their height and at the corner spot. It's not Butler's fault. Coop is not and was not developing that room properly, and it shows. I think if you watch last year and you look at their grading, look how good Tommy Hill got last year after being a guy who really struggled. I don't think that's true. I mean, they had injuries back there, and their secondary was much better last year. The overall numbers, whether it's PFF or just eyesight, was better. So I know they lost Omar Brown, but other than that, I think Coop did a pretty good job. I think if you talk to any of the people in the secondary, they'll tell you they really liked him and they thought he did a pretty good job as well. I'm not blaming it all on Butler, but they're not as good. And it's part athleticism, it's part size. But you're going to blame coaching on every other position except for a position that's really struggling with a new coach? That makes zero sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Let's go take one more call before we take a break. Let's go to Random Mike. Good morning, Random Mike.
Hey, I apologize. I was actually kicking some quality A in tennis, so I haven't been able to listen. Do you think Dana's coming back?
Oh, yeah, I do. I believe that's the plan. Yeah, sure.
I know we plan on it, but he's the one making the decision.
Yeah, and I can't make that decision for him. I'm just telling you the plan, I think, is for him to come back. If he got offered a head coaching job, that'd be a different thing. But why would you go anywhere else than here to be an offensive coordinator? Because he's got a 5-star quarterback. His money is offset by the money he's making from his old job, and so that's not going to change. So there's no reason to really go anywhere else. As an OC.
Do you think the Chip Kelly precedent of doing what you love instead of just to be the head guy? I mean, you got a lot less aggravation.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Do you think that helps?
I think it helps. Okay. I think Dana has gone through to the ending. The last 2 jobs, the endings were really tough, West Virginia and Houston. So I think you're right. I think having to be here and just be the OC and run that stuff, it's got to be a relief.
Okay, 2 quick things. Mm-hmm. John Butler, from what I know about him, and just listen, I love the guy, and I hope he stays, and I think it'll work itself out. But we both like Jalen Lloyd. Why isn't he being used?
I can't answer that question. I don't know. I saw him run one deep route, and Raiola settled for the underneath route. It was a good gain to Barney, but I thought Lloyd had the defender on his back, and he could have thrown the post, and he didn't. I don't know. I have no idea why. I don't know.
The one guy that can take the top off, maybe Barney, is him, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, he's the fast. He's probably, if you lined everybody up, the fastest player on the team. I mean, he's a track athlete.
But hey, coaching matters. Coaching matters. What a difference that guy makes.
Oh, no, definitely. Coach matters big time. Random Mike, I appreciate it. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about the secondary and get into, because I have conversations with guys in the secondary who I've had a chance to talk to. You can blame this on Cooper. It's injuries. It's some of the players they have in there. And it was the kind of what Dana was talking about. Fresh eyes. They left Tommy Hill in there because they thought they were doing the best thing for Tommy Hill, allowing him to keep playing. That was a mistake. Shouldn't have been in there. That's a mistake. Who do you blame that on? Is the position coach? Defensive coordinator? Head coach? Somebody's got to be blamed for that. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More here on Severe Reaction on 1620 Zone.
And Heinrich's going to take the snap. He's got Dowdell to his right. Wide receivers left and right from the 5. Motioning now is Bonner. Now lines up as a wing. Turn. Zone read. Heinrich keeps it himself off the right side, and he is in. Touchdown, Nebraska. Heinrich Harburg's first rushing touchdown of the year. Nebraska lickety split down the field to take the lead 6-0.
Man, a beautiful concept. A little front side action. You would think power, but they gave you kind of some lead action. Boy, you like it. I love it. How about that?
Beautiful.
Is there any part of this that's a feeling of relief?
Yes, 100%, 100%. And again, it's relief in that I've got the benefit of doing this twice before, and staying like I think I said to you guys like when I made the change with Dana. Like I look at the weight room, I look at the training room, I look at sports science, I look at sports psychology, I look at the player development, I look at the recruiting, I look at all the things we're doing and believe it's all right and it's all going to pay off in a big way.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. Nebraska in the red zone. One of the keys to the game that I had, I love Schoolhouse Rock and Grammar Rock and American Rock and Multiplication Rock. And I love the number 6 one. We got 6, but better to get 6 than 3. Nebraska, 7 of 7 in the red zone, 5 touchdowns. First 3 trips in the red zone were TDs. That is red zone offense. And a lot of it was blocking on a couple of those touchdowns. Banks, nice job. Luke Lindenmeyer, nice job. The offensive line did a good job. Some great blocking, especially down by the goal line for Nebraska yesterday, really helping there to be able to run the ball in the red zone. Let's go back to the phones where Tony is this morning. Good morning, Tony.
Morning, Michael. Hope you're having a good one.
Yeah. How are you? You doing well?
Hey, I'm doing well. I just wanted to update everybody. CNN, MSNBC, and The View have just reported that Omaha has turned from blue to red officially. So congratulations to our boys turning the Chi Center into Lincoln East, if you will. I do feel bad for the injured point guard, that kid.
Yeah.
I brought my grandson to the game, and he says, "Oh, Grandpa, 1 and 2 for Creighton are amazing." And I do hope that that turns out okay for them and they bounce back. But yesterday, as you watch the offense unfold, I would like you to look ahead, and you probably watch a little more game film from other teams than the rest of us. If we were to compare Wisconsin's defense to Iowa's defense, and now look ahead and see that possibly the line might look a little different than it would have if Nebraska would have had a loss, or if Dana doesn't come to Nebraska. What do you think the line is going to be? And can Nebraska have that kind of success on the Iowa defense?
Tony, you're talking about the betting line, correct? You're talking about the betting line?
Yeah, the betting line.
It's 4. Iowa by 4 currently.
I'll tell you what, Husker fans, you want to make some Christmas money, you might want to take the money line. I do love the momentum coming out of yesterday. I think I haven't seen Dylan that confident. If they would show him after every play, and he was always rolling his hands as if to say, "Come on, let's go, let's keep it moving." That's dangerous when you give a quarterback like that kind of confidence. So going into the game, I think you give Nebraska that momentum. I don't think Iowa can keep up with Nebraska in a shooting match like that. So I like our chances next week, Michael. But I'd like to hear what you think.
Yeah, Tony, I appreciate the call. I will say it's going to be cold. It's going to be in the 20s. That always kind of limits offense. The total right now is 39.5, so they're expecting a low-scoring game. But I agree. I mean, there's the opportunity to be able to do that. Wisconsin's defense was one of the better defenses Nebraska's faced numbers-wise. And they went through, like a lot of teams have in the Big Ten, where they were playing really well, then they had a slump, then they battled back. It's usually based on the teams they're playing. Iowa had that stretch where they went 3 weeks with only forcing a couple of punts. But they bounced back, and they did a great job against Maryland, held Maryland under 300 yards and did a great job of taking the ball away from them as well. But it's going to be a tough matchup. We need one more break. Yep. Rick, stay right there. We'll take one more break real quick. Come right back. We'll take Rick, take your phone calls here on 1620 The Zone.
the last 7 years, Wisconsin's been in a bowl game. That's roughly 15 practices a year. That's 105 practices that their players have had of development that we haven't had. And so, this is a great way to send off the seniors. It's also an opportunity for us to continue to develop our players. And then kind of the cloud that kind of hangs over everything, it's gone. This will be the last time we ever celebrate 6 wins. But as I've told our players, it's always the hardest to do it, because it's always hard to be the first to do it.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone. Coming into the game, Wisconsin was giving up 5.3 yards per play, right about the same as Nebraska. Nebraska was giving up 5.2. Nebraska and Wisconsin was giving up 5.3 yards per play. Worse than they were last year, but about the same as they were last year. Nebraska was much worse than they were last year. Last year they were 4.4 yards per play. This year they're 5.2, so about comparable. Matter of fact, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and UCLA all 100th or 1/10 of a point apart defensively. So coming in, Wisconsin wasn't a bad defense. It looked like they were 6th in the Big Ten ranked defensive wise. Let's go back to the phones. That's where Rick is. Good morning, Rick. How are you doing?
Hey, Michael. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. Good.
Hey, man. Beautiful day yesterday. We ended 2 droughts in 1 game.
No doubt. More than that, they also ended the drought of no 100-yard runners and scoring over 40 points against a conference team too.
Yeah, there were just so many good things about it. Hey, Michael, I watch you guys on Big Red Wrap Up.
Yeah.
You guys do a great job there, just as you do with this show.
Thank you.
I wonder if you could answer me a question. When you guys speak about playing quarters on defense,
yeah,
can you explain what that means? And I'll hang up and listen and learn. Thanks, Michael.
Sure, no problem, Rick. So a lot of times you talk about teams playing just too high, right? And their cornerbacks are closer to the line of scrimmage. So your too high is just one half of the field for one safety, one half of the field for the other safety. Think about this. If you break up the field as in the boundary on one side, the field on the other, and then 2 middle fields, which would be the hashes, 4 across is quarters. So you have the far boundary quarter, you have the middle hash on the boundary side, you have the middle hash on the field side, and you have the field side. So that's your 4 quarters when you're talking about it in terms of the secondary and defense. Majority of the time, if somebody's playing in quarters, they're playing basically in zone. They're just sitting back there, and they're trying to keep everything in front of them so they don't give up big plays. You saw that with Nebraska for a long time. I know Banker did that and did it pretty effectively, mainly because they were good at getting some pressure on the quarterback and making him get rid of the ball a little bit faster. But if you're not getting pressure and you're sitting back in quarters, they're going to pick you apart. Maybe you don't give up any long plays, but you're going to give up a lot of short completions as well. So, yeah, you're talking about a defense and the way that Tony White calls it traditionally that's changing up constantly. They're matching at times personnel. At times they're back in a 2 deep. Sometimes they only have a 1 high and they're coming down and getting the box on a run play. They're trying to make sure the numbers fit your advantage, the defensive advantage. The numbers is the biggest part of this thing. You can basically stop the game, draw a line down the middle from the offense to the defense, count how many defenders opposed to offensive players are on that side in terms of the blocking, and determine where the weakness is. And so you're constantly trying to make sure that quarterback can't get that weakness early on. That's why you switch late at times and you're constantly changing up the defenses. But you see Nebraska when they're doing well, it's when they're moving the quarterback off his spot and the secondary is tackling well. That's when this defense is at its best. I watched this defense, the 3-3-5, way back at New Mexico when I was working there in the late 1990s. And I know when it can work. You have to have a really good rover who can make tackles and play well. You got to have corners who don't get beat by back shoulder things, and you got to have a offensive line or a front seven that can get to the quarterback as well. Obviously, we'll be back next Sunday, following the Friday night game against Iowa. We'll be there for that. By the way, Colorado, in order for Colorado to get in the Big 12 title game, they need two of these three teams to lose: BYU, Arizona State, and Iowa State. Colorado's got to win their last game, and BYU, Arizona State, Iowa State, 2 of them have to lose for Colorado to get into the Big 12 title game. Let's hope that doesn't happen. We will see you back here next Sunday after Nebraska plays Iowa on Big Friday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks for listening to Severe Reaction.